All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Terry Daniel, voice actor and coach from Minneapolis. Welcome to VoiceOver Camp's Don't Be a VO Turkey. And we are basically going to separate the myths from the truth when starting a voiceover career, because in this day and age of the internet and multiple blogs and thousands of different forums online, there's almost too many chefs in the kitchen at this point. But we're the only three that ever know what we're talking about. I'm just kidding.
Believe no
I'm
one
just
else
kidding.
but us.
There's never no one right way, but we're pretty, when people are passionate about getting into voice, that was one of the reasons we put together VoiceOver Camp. And we wanted to steer people in the right direction because there was so much garbage online that people were like picking up on these get rich schemes and signing up for these ridiculous dumpster site programs where supposedly they can make shitloads of money right away, and there's just a lot of crap out there. So the reason I put together VoiceOver Camp and then brought in Tawny and Rob was to make sure that that we steered people in the right direction. So welcome. I think this is our third or fourth webinar together, you guys.
I think is it at least the third? At least the third.
Yeah, so we appreciate everybody being here, and people will slowly come into the room as we kind of get going here. But just to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and it will be available. It will be available for $49.99 on video cassette. No, this is I'll post it in VoiceOver Camp tomorrow. If you gotta dodge out early or whatever, no big deal. Or if you come in late, but. And we welcome your questions too. In fact, we encourage you to ask live questions, and there's an easy way to do it. You raise the virtual hand in the GoToWebinar widget. I'll scroll through the attendee list, and I shall call upon you. If you're a little too shy, well, you can also type a question in the little question box, and we'll try to get to that a little bit towards a little bit later during the class. So, all right, well, let's start rolling here. My name is Terry Daniel. My fuzzy picture right there. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I came from the theater and radio back in the late 80s, did a lot of stage work and a lot of improv back in the day. And then I got real lazy when I went into voiceovers because I could just make a lot of money behind a microphone in my flannel pajama pants in my basement. So I stopped doing stage work and I got into voiceovers. My first commercial was a TV spot for Country Kitchen. It was a regional spot. And this was probably 1990. And so I've been doing lots of different projects ever since. My main niche, I guess, would be commercials, e-learning, and theme park announcements. I do all the stuff at Stone Mountain Park. I do a lot of stuff for Six Flags, Valley Fair here locally, Darien Lakes Amusement Park in New York. I do a lot of stuff for 3M and Subaru of America, a lot of national stuff for both those companies. And the reason I got into mentorship and the teaching part of it, because I used to actually be a drama coach and I directed a lot of plays, and I always really enjoyed the teaching end of the craft as well. I also got tired of people calling me up saying they spent $6,000 with a company who produced a shitty demo for them. So I decided to get into it then. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm going to start mentoring a few people here. And I really, that's one of the reasons I got into it. But so welcome. How about Tawny? Let's talk about you, Tawny. Tell us a little bit about, basically why you got started in voiceovers and give us a little testimony about how it's been going so far.
Definitely. So for me, I was a child actor in San Diego. It's been a lifelong dream to get into voice acting. After I graduated high school, I started a retail store. Flipped that, grew it, sold that so I could pursue the actor dream without even realizing how many tools I had already at my disposal to get into voiceover, because it is running a business more than anything.
Yeah.
So I started out with Terry, and before I even graduated, I got my first job in a video game. And then ever since then, it's just been booking those jobs, and now I'm coaching, and I had no idea I'd ever teach, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things about the job is being able to be a mentor.
Well, you've always been kind of a marketing mentor even before you got started in voiceover, right?
Absolutely. I've been doing business and marketing coaching since a couple of years into my last one. It grew, and I just started connecting with other business owners and people that needed help, and I've been helping them with their businesses. So it extends to multiple ventures, not just voiceover, as far as the marketing and the business goes.
And what would you say your niche is in voiceover?
Probably commercial more than anything, especially with this voice.
Well, and it's a good voice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely not reading any Planet Earth narrations, but I can do a great advertisement for mascara any day of the week.
You're not doing any medical reads?
I've tried. They don't like me.
You're not doing any 200-page ebooks on search engine optimization?
Not this voice. They don't want this voice.
See, so there's a niche for every kind of voice, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. I mean, so like, stuff that Tawny does, I'm obviously not a very good fit for, and there's probably no way she's going to want to do a medical narration for 3M. So there's kind of something, in it for everybody. Let's go over to I love that picture, Rob. And by the way, what microphone is that? That is a Sennheiser 416, everybody.
Notice how I made sure to get that in the shot.
Oh, of course. Yeah. A lot of TV promo, a lot of movie trailer people. And Rob uses it for, it's a very warm mic. It's got a lot of range. And Rob, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Well, Papa always said had a face for radio. No, it was the classic thing. I've always been told I had a really good voice, and I always worked in broadcasting or television production, and so I was always doing some kind of a video production where they needed somebody to do a voice or something, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it. And then I worked at Six Flags. One of my first jobs, I worked at Six Flags doing sound mixing there, and did a lot of live announcing and spiels over the microphone. And after a while, I just started getting used to it and just have always been in the industry. And then not too long ago, somebody gave me a tablet PC for Christmas. And then I realized that I could use that to record audio completely silently. There wasn't a fan going. There wasn't a hard drive spinning. And I'm like, I could do freelance voiceover. I should be making money doing this. And so I immediately created a demo, and I knew immediately that I was going to be successful, and then got nowhere. And realized that I needed some more training, and everything I thought I knew, I didn't. And so I met you, and and life has been pretty good so far. I'm doing a lot of things. I volunteered to give my voice to Learning Ally, so I'm doing an audiobook for them.
Awesome.
So it's like, on top of everything else that's going on, I thought, let me do an audiobook. I don't know. I really don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but.
And this is you're doing this on a volunteer basis?
Yeah, Learning Ally, they get voice artists to donate their time to reading audiobooks for people with learning disabilities.
Oh, terrific.
And so they get a lot of people to donate whatever they can, and so they reach out to voice artists and say, "Hey, can you guys do audiobooks?" And I really like that idea, and it's like, cool. And the first one they let me do was a Dr. Seuss one. I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. But then they gave me this one, and it's like, I don't know, 27 chapters, I don't know how many thousands of words. And I realized, it's a lot of work.
Well, that's
the worst possible time.
That's an excellent way to give back. And for those of you that are starting in voiceover, and this has happened to me multiple times now, volunteering for like a nonprofit that you're really passionate about is not only a good way to get some experience, but more times than not, these clients will come back and hire you for a paid gig too. That may not happen right away, but it's a good place to, a really good way to start a relationship, and a really good foundation to build on, because that's what happened with me with the Red Cross. There was like a ton of volunteer work at the beginning, and then suddenly, my information got transferred to another department in marketing. And then suddenly, the guy was hiring me for lots of different e-learning. So not only was I giving back to my community, so to speak, but they actually did start to, hire me for paid work as well.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm always stressing, freelance isn't free, but this is, you pick and choose the ones that you want to donate your services to. And I think donating, it's for a good cause. It helps a good cause, and it helps you in the process. You learn a lot about yourself, and you get your voice out there. So it's a great way for some people to get started and get some experience.
Absolutely. Well, let's start tonight. And again, if you've got questions, we'll start to take questions about 15 to 20 minutes in. Let's see if it's about 6:12 right now, and maybe about 6:20, 6:25, we'll start taking a few questions here. don't believe everything you hear. So, there's a lot of stuff online that you might kind of raise an eyebrow. You're like, oh, that sounds either a little too good to be true or not very good at all. There's such a mixture of weird information on the internet, whether you're reading some voiceover blogs or, well, not your blog, Rob, because everything is true.
Oh, everything I write is gold.
It is. Well, you know what? Your blog is actually fantastic because it's always a good way to answer questions. You must have a blog to answer every kind of voiceover question. And that's
because it's all been answered before. We've all said the questions before. I mean, and it hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. It's the foundation for getting started in any business is always going to be the same. It's never gonna waver too much from a solid foundation first. And I mean, and that's the whole point of this talk tonight, is that there's lots of people out there that think that they can come up with new and unique ways to get around the fact that you need a solid foundation first before you can go anywhere in this business. So.
Excellent stuff. Well, let's start. We're actually going to go through the myths. We're going to carve through some of the myths. And this is something that you read online all the time. All you need is a USB mic and a computer. Well,
that's it.
Yeah. In my opinion, a USB mic works well for coaching, podcasts, practice, and, smaller jobs like, maybe some e-learning or on-hold messages. We've all had to start somewhere. And I think, Rob or Tawny, did you guys start with a USB mic? I mean, we're definitely not condoning it. We're not going to say, oh, no, don't get a USB mic. But it's definitely not all you need.
It's a good starter mic. I mean, you can do a lot with a USB microphone and a properly, set up space, but it's not going to compete once you start getting into, actual money making jobs. It's not going to compete with an XLR style microphone or a condenser microphone. I mean, you're running on a TLM 103, which is an amazing microphone that I can't afford, but I would love. I mean, that's a beautiful mic, and there's a lot of skill behind that mic, and USB mic gets you started. It's a good starter mic. It's definitely not going to be your last mic. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then like Rob said, when it comes time if you start working through agencies or you start getting broadcast work like commercials, bigger jobs like that, then an XLR mic we're not going to go through lists of equipment on this particular webinar, but like an XLR mic, like a TLM 103 or Rob's Sennheiser 416. Tawny, what kind of mic do you use?
I have the Rode NT1A.
Great
microphone.
That is
everybody always says that.
Yeah,
that's really if you're willing to spend a couple $100 more than a USB mic, I can tell you it's night and day the difference between the sound coming from a USB mic that tends to pick up a lot of plosives and a lot of room noise, and going to the Rode NT1A. And what kind of preamp are you using, Tawny?
About the Rode NT1A, especially if you buy it like on Amazon or something, you can get a deal a lot of times. I got my mic, a stand, the pop filter, like the whole shebang set up. It was like $300. So it's
nice.
When you look at the grand scheme, it's really not bad at all. I never did the USB mic. I went straight to that. This is my first mic. I love it. It's never given me any problems, and my clients really like it a lot too.
Are you using a Focusrite? Oh no, you're not. You're not using a Focusrite, right? You're using something else.
For a preamp?
For the pre, yeah.
Apollo Twin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, she's got that's right. She's got the Apollo Twin, and the Apollo Twin's a high end preamp, but like a Focusrite, a Scarlett 2i2 is a decent.
I'm using a 2i2 right now. I love it.
You plug it. It's a USB. You plug it right into your computer, and that and that can be a good microphone too.
It's a solid, inexpensive preamp. I mean, that's what you need, is to be able to convert the signal into the computer. And that's just something like a USB mic does that, but not as well as an actual dedicated analog to digital converter. That's what a preamp is all about,
Yeah, and the third bullet point, of course, get the training first. Learn the craft. You hear me talk about this on VoiceOver Camp from sunrise to sundown, how it's so important to get your reads down before you start getting into all this equipment. We always get questions in VoiceOver Camp. People are always focused on the microphone, the equipment. And that's all fun and dandy. I mean, it's fun to buy microphones. Sometimes it's not fun to buy the coaching, but you really need the coaching before the microphone to make sure that you get the acting part of voice acting down. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We want to carve into a few more myths. This is one of my very favorites. You have to move to LA or New York City to be successful. How many of you are ready to pack up and fly to LA or New York City to be a voice actor?
I mean, it's just a quick drive up the freeway for me, but
This is probably
I left LA and became a voice actor, so
Yeah.
I went the opposite direction.
a lot of people do that. These are the kind of myths that you find in some of the older voiceover books that are available, like on Amazon. And believe me, this is one of the biggest myths I've ever run across. In this day and age of technology, you can do voiceovers from Mars, and believe me, I've done it. No. With this day and age of being able to send an MP3 to a client, get paid via PayPal, Square, or other online resources, you can do any kind of voiceovers. I mean, Tawny's in California, Rob's in Austin. I'm in Minneapolis, which is a relatively small market. I've done really well in Minneapolis. I haven't moved to LA. Now there is a benefit to being a part of an LA agency like Abrams and some of the other agencies out there if you want to get into animation, TV promos, and move trailers. You like that typo there? Move trailers.
Move trailers. For laxatives.
Good one. Yeah. How about some more cold medication there, Terry?
No, it's like I was typing this.
Yeah, that was a bad typo. So, I mean, there is a benefit to being there and getting on that LA agency for like that. But I mean, don't think that you have to move at all. I get questions all the time where do I have to move to do this? I tell you where you have to move. You have to move into the next room where your home studio is. That's where you have to move. So this is a big time rumor. Next one up is you need a talent agent to be successful. This is absolutely not true. Rob, how many talent agents do you have?
I have 6. I have 6 agents. And,
that's right.
And honestly, I don't get any work from any of them.
Well, my point is, yeah, you get most of the work on your own, just kind of being a freelance voice actor.
I get all my work from my own, like, sweat. You know,
it's perfect, because that's sweat is really what's going to get you hired. Tawny, Tawny, do you have an agent?
Go ahead.
I have 0 agents.
I thought you had one. I thought you signed with one.
No.
No,
I have turned down agencies actually.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, just look at you get approached like as you start to build and you're in contact with people. And there was this one that reached out and I'm like, I have not heard good things about you. And I was like, thanks, but no thanks. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm not necessarily opposed to an agent, but it's not something I'm actively looking for either. First of all, like I really like working for myself. I like talking to the client directly. I like negotiating everything. I like being my own boss. So unless it's something that I would really look at as being advantageous to me to catapult me to the next level of something that I'm not already getting, I don't see the point. And it's like Rob said too, it's like the vast majority of colleagues that I've spoken to, same thing. They're like, I get maybe 10% of my work from an agent.
If they're
everything's
lucky.
from me. Yeah, if you're lucky too.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I use my agencies, the auditions that come in are practice. It's I consider it like, a high level practice, like dress rehearsal kind of a thing. I'm submitting. But I know I'm submitting to a humongous number of guys who are also submitting with the same kind of voice. Right. The one agency I'm with, or one of the agencies that I'm with right now has 250 people, all with the same male 25 to 45, whatever kind of voice.
Right.
So, I mean, that's
more of the cattle. That's more of the cattle call like agency you belong to. Now, my local agent, it's great practice. Now, it's different when you're on a roster like my local agency, which is nuts. They're kind of the non-union powerhouse in the Midwest. I mean, I get work almost every week from them. So it's a different kind of relationship with that agency. But, eventually if you can get a little bit of both, you get some agency work kind of splashed in along with your freelance work that you're working with. It's a really good way to make a living. So I wasn't really done with that slide yet. What am I doing? Sorry about that. I just wanted to mention that's a stat right there. 75% of my annual income is freelance work. It's working as an independent contractor with audio-visual departments from corporations, production houses, explainer video companies, e-learning, basically any client who's going to need a voice to help move their product or improve their business. And I think I can humbly admit that all three of us probably work a little bit like that. And if you can get some of that freelance work and just get a few splash, maybe you end up being a huge hit with your agency. That's absolutely huge. Andy Barnett, who was on with my live video on voiceover camp, I don't know if he's in here now, but he is a huge agency talent. That's, a lot of his work is basically booked through talent agents. So it does seem like there's almost like a couple different sides of the voiceover business. There's the agency heavy voice talents where it's all agency bookings. And then there's people like us that are a little bit more of the freelance artist. Either also, way, you're working from home.
There's a tier level, I think, with the agencies. There's like, there's like the entry level agencies. And then there's the ones that you get asked to be a part of and you never once ask them. There's some big agencies out there, and you're not going to go walking in the front door. It's like you have to be invited to that kind of an agency.
Oh,
So there's two levels to the agency stuff too. But I don't know any working pro that can honestly say that the majority of their work comes from agencies. None. It's nice to get jobs, and and it's the opportunity to maybe land a national spot.
Yeah.
But the actual, who's going to pay the lights, how are the lights going to get paid? That comes from my own work of finding the companies and talking to them and establishing relationships and working, the good old fashioned way. That's just the way it is.
Excellent.
That's business.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a big myth. Record your own demos. Yes, go ahead. Just go ahead and plug a USB mic into your computer, find some crap that you find online, and you can record your own demos. Big time myth. Oh yeah, we've all kind of been down that. Recording your own demos is the equivalent of an actor or model taking selfies and sending them to agencies. They're probably not going to do that. They're going to get their picture taken by a professional photographer. And you only get one chance to make an impression. And if you're truly passionate about getting into voiceovers, you really need a coach to help you with your reads, to help you with your marketing, to help you with your craft. And then they'll tell you when it's time to do a demo. They'll direct you during a demo session. And then the coach or somebody that they're working with will produce it. That just happened the other day. Tawny, you directed Jason Leach, who's a great talent.
Oh my God, Jason just blew me to the floor, blew me away. I was like, oh my God, he was so good.
Tawny directed him, and then then they're going to send me the raw files, and then I'm going to do all the mixing and mastering from my studio. So it's also a deal where it doesn't matter where you live. You can get a demo done by somebody, like me in Minneapolis. You don't have to necessarily fly here or anything else. Talent agents and producers have incredible memories for bad demos. So if you're going to start sending out demos that you have tried to produce yourself, guess what? Not only is the agency or the producer going to be able to tell that you self-produced it within literally the first 3 seconds of the first track on the demo, but sometimes they put you on a list. And it's not the good list. Trust me. They have amazing memories for the shit. They really do.
If you're particularly bad, they save them and exchange them with friends and say, listen to this guy. So you become a joke.
No, you don't want to be the joke.
Particularly bad ones.
You do not want to be the joke at all. So,
because you're never going to get work. Oh wait, you're the guy whose joke I've been passing around all of Hollywood. Oh,
it's amazing. They have incredible memories. So let's say if you decide to kind of do it half-assed, send an agency a self-produced demo, and then suddenly a couple years later you decide to take yourself a little more seriously, and then you get a demo professionally done, and then you send it to the same agent, you'd be surprised. They're probably going to remember who you are. So you may not even
be remembered.
Yeah, you may not even get a second chance. So why waste anybody's time, including yours, by putting together a demo when you just don't have the skill set to do it? So
everyone thinks they do. Everyone thinks they do. I thought I did when I started. I thought for sure it's like, okay, I know how a commercial should sound. I listen to them all the time. And I thought for sure I could do it. And God, I listen to it now and it's just, oh, I cringe every time I hear it. It was so profoundly bad compared to what I know now.
Well,
And it's like, I'm sorry, you just need somebody to be able to show you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong and get you there the right way.
in 1989, I picked up a couple magazines and a couple of newspapers and just started reading from the magazines and newspapers into a Panasonic boombox on a TDK cassette tape. And I swear to God, it was like a 20-minute demo. And I sent that out.
Man.
I sent that out. And boy, did I learn the hard way, man. I actually had an agent called me back and bitched me out. It's like, what are you doing? This is not, they were like, I was actually pretty happy that they took the time to do that, because that was, boy, that was like a good slap on the wrist back then of like, all right. I wasn't really aware of how to really do this right. So there you have it. If you guys want to ask us questions, there's an easy way. Raise the virtual hand in the GoToWebinar widget and we can call upon you. I want to get to one more myth and then we will take some questions. Does that sound all right with you, Rob and Tawny?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. And Tawny, you have how many demos now? So really, having more than one demo is a good thing, don't you think? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you are marketing towards a client for something in particular. If I'm doing small businesses in my area, I am using my telephony demo. Like for a coffee shop, that's pretty much the only thing that they're going to need is a coffee shop, unless they have some kind of welcome video on their website or something. But it's helpful depending on what company you're approaching, what kind of work that they're producing. There's some places that are going to be doing something that's more narration. There's some places that are going to be doing more commercial.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm trying to, if you want to get a telephony job, you should have a telephony demo as opposed to a commercial demo.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
a guy looking for a guy who wants to hire you for an automotive commercial is not going to want to hear you saying, for employees, press 1. It's,
right.
They want to hear what they want to hear. Like there's a small amount of time that you have to get somebody's attention, and they don't have time to hear, you talking like a parrot if they need somebody to do a sexy voice. It's just. And back in the day, that's the way it used to be. That back in the day, the demo was, here's my character thing, here's my commercial thing, here's my
put it all on the same CD and cassette. And now everything is so niche based. We've got
nobody got time for that.
Yeah, audio. My dog's gonna go nuts for a little bit here. Audiobook demo, telephony demo, commercial demo, theme. I have a theme park demo now. Can you believe that?
That's awesome.
A theme park announcer demo. There's just the niche demos are definitely becoming something that's very, very popular.
Absolutely.
Ann Allert, I believe her name is. We're going to get to her question shortly here. Let's get to one more myth. So hang on, Ann, and we'll get to you shortly here. Having a good voice is all you need.
Nope.
That's all you need.
Nope.
A good voice is important, but the delivery takes precedent. This goes back to what we've been saying, what we always preach in voiceover camp is learning the craft. And if you really think about it, and Rob and Tawny, you guys know who Joe Cipriano is and some of these voice actors that are just huge. And Joe, God bless him, great voice, great delivery, but it's not like he's got this voice of God. Some of the most successful voice actors in the country are just people that sound like your neighbor, but they bring out that acting part of their voice so naturally.
Exactly.
So learn the acting part of voice acting. Right.
And there's so many people out there that think that, okay, they want to be an announcer. They want to do movie trailers. So they do that Guy LaFontaine voice. They do the Don.
Yeah. The Don.
And all they're doing is they're doing an impression. And the reality is, it's like, if you really want to work in promotion, like promo TV, if you really want to work in that area, you really need to pay attention to what's currently going on and get the training from somebody to say, no, you don't sound like this. You sound it like this. And, if you want to work, that's the way you do it. You don't pretend to know just because you've listened to them on the TV and radio spots,
That's true. All right. Well, we've got our first question, so we're going to get to her. Ann Allert. My apologies if I'm pronouncing your name correct. Good evening, Ann. How are you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Perfectly. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks. And yes, you did get the name absolutely perfect. Very well done.
Awesome.
Most people mess it up, just so you know.
No problem at all. And what did you have a question for us tonight?
Yeah. When you find in my case, I found a voice coach that's near me that's recommended by someone who's not a voice person. So it's a friend of a friend kind of situation.
Mhm.
What kind of questions should I ask them? Like, how should I find out if they're a decent voiceover coach and if I'm wasting my money and, kind of how much should I expect to pay, that kind of thing.
Well,
What, what kind of screening should I do?
if you're not working with us, you are wasting your money. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was hoping for a local studio.
It's a joke, for God's sake. You know what? That's a really good.
I know. Don't worry. That's why I'm laughing. Don't worry. Yeah, I was hoping for a local studio, kind of things.
No, that is a great question. I'm going to mute her mic because you know what, Rob, I'm going to let you take this because there's a lot of I hate to use the term, but there's a lot of predatorial kind of coaching services and people out there pretending to be experts and still coaching people when they haven't had a day of voice acting experience.
There's a lot of people that believe their own hype.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, are we doing this as a PG rated or is this an R rated?
What the
I
hell?
actually had to censor myself there.
There's
people that believe their own bullshit,
Yeah.
and they have convinced themselves that they are a voice actor because they're maybe got a couple of companies that are giving them money or they're starting to make money and they call themselves a voice actor and they're turning around and they're saying, well, here's how you do it. And what they're saying really, to be honest, a lot of it is common sense mixed in with whatever they thought worked for them. And just because it worked for them going that particular route doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody. However, they're more than happy to sell you on the idea that this works, so it's going to work for you. And they try and pitch around the fact that it takes a considerable amount of time and effort to actually do this job, to work in this industry correctly. And they get around that by saying, well, here's how to do it fast. And it's a get rich quick plan. And it's not sustainable. A lot of it's not sustainable. A lot of it just flat out does not work. But they're more than happy to take your money and sell it to you anyway.
Yeah.
And by the time you've figured it out, you're just pissed off and maybe you've quit. All right, I got screwed, whatever. And they've cashed in. So there's a lot of people out there. So to answer the question, how do you know which ones are right and which ones aren't? You got to ask around. You got to shop around. You have to. One of the best ways that I know of is talk to the people that are actually making the money.
Yeah.
If you want to work in commercial VO, or perfect, yeah. If you want to work in commercial VO, you start listening to the spots that are on the air. Who's doing that spot, and ask them how did they get their training. That's the person that you want to get coached from. You don't want to talk to just anybody. You want to talk to the people that are making money in the area of the business that you're in, say, who did you get?
Yeah, and I think it's important to actually hire a coach that actually has voiceover experience. I know that seems like it's like common sense, but seriously, there's people at some of these companies that are more salespeople than they are coaches. And a lot of them honestly don't have a lot of voice acting experience. So, and getting back to your question as well, find out if this person, how long they've been doing it, get some testimonials from other people that they've been working with, and then make sure that they at least, in the business, maybe they were a talent agent or a casting director, that would be fine too, at least a part of the business. And unfortunately, some of them out there just have not. Let's get over to Jeff Davis. We'll take one more question and then we'll move on to the next slide. Jeff, I'm coming for you. 1 second here. Good evening, Jeff Davis. You are on with Dr. Robert Marley. Oh, we got that mic thing going on again. Hang on a minute.
Dr. Robert Marley. You just love to get into that announcer
I can't,
voice.
You know why? Because I never get to do it. I never, ever get to do it. Okay, Jeff, you're on. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Great. You're welcome. Thank you for having this tonight. I greatly appreciate it. When it comes to communicating with your clients, maybe during a session, do you guys recommend IP, DTL, phone patch, Source Connect, Skype? What works well, and also what might work well for somebody who's just getting into the business?
That is a great question. I've always been a fan personally of either Source Connect Now, which is the Chrome app. Rob, you use it, and I use Skype. I don't use IP. What is it? IPDTL. I don't have an ISDN line. The city that I live in doesn't even offer the phone line, and I'm not going to pay $5,000 for them to put it in. If I
Yeah,
if
the
I
guys
have
in my area don't even know what IPDTL or what an ISDN line is.
I go downtown if I have a client that really wants to do an ISDN session. I'm literally 7 minutes from downtown Minneapolis, where a buddy of mine has a studio, and then I'll just rent his space to do that. But typically, for like a live directed session, even a speakerphone on a smartphone will work.
Yeah.
Skype is very effective for a live directed session. You really don't need all these little fancy online gadgets to do it. I know, Rob, you're a big fan of the Source Connect Now. Or you're still using that quite a bit?
Actually, I've been staying away from it because it's the last few times that I've used it, it's kind of crapped out on me. I'm using a Wi-Fi connection off the laptop, most of the time. So I think it's just a bandwidth issue. But Skype works great. I mean, honestly, if you just need to talk to the client, if the client just wants to hear you deliver the line, a phone, just having the phone next to you is enough. Wear one earbud so that you can hear him, without having to take your headphones off, and that works great. Skype, I'm honestly using Skype more than anything else, just because it's super convenient to pass files back and forth, and it's free. So I mean, it's great. Skype works fine. I don't need anything fancy anymore.
Good question so far, everybody. The next myth: Fiverr is a great place to start. We could go on for hours about lowball dumpster sites. I don't want to sit here and bash them until the sun rises, but we are here to say that this is absolutely true if you're not going to take your voice acting seriously. If you want to be more of a voice hobbyist, sure, Fiverr's a great place to start. But if you're going to take your career seriously, this could be a real career killer. Lowball sites can also institutionalize you, and you get so comfortable making very little money, working 22 hours a day, that you get kind of trapped inside that world, and pretty soon you don't even have the energy to market outside of like a world like that. You'll have far more success volunteering for nonprofits. I said this earlier. It comes back, a lot of these places will come back and actually hire you for paid work. Tawny or Rob, I don't know if any of you ever even tried the Fiverr thing for even like a day.
No, God, no. I found you far before that.
Okay, good. So you were on the right path to start.
Yeah, no, the other thing is about voice acting, voiceover too, is that so many people don't do any research before they're just like, I'm gonna do it, and they just like contact the the voiceover training mentors, and they haven't done any research with that. That was one of the first things I found looking into voiceover was Fiverr is the devil. Don't go on Fiverr. It's horrible. And it's true. I've never heard anything good about Fiverr. You get what you pay for, and you have to respect yourself as a talent and not screw up the rest of the industry either. You're setting a standard. And if you're a professional and you're giving those jobs away at those low rates, the clients are going to start to expect that from all of us too. So you screw over yourself and you screw over everybody else in the industry. And it's a real good way to not make friends with other voiceover talents.
And there are some people that honestly, God bless you, Tawny, for saying it, but there are some people that just don't give a damn. They're just in it for the money, and there's a couple of guys. I mean, when I first started, there was a guy that I really admired the way he worked, because he was a go-getter, and he used to pride himself on doing the things that the other people wouldn't.
Right.
And it's just over time he's become so obsessed about the money aspect that he doesn't care about anything else. And so now he's just selling he's selling people on a get rich quick scheme, and he's making money right and left. Doesn't matter to him. He's making money, but he's just selling the dream to somebody else. And it may work for one or two people, but for the majority,
it sounds like a pretty bad dream to me.
It's a scam.
Fiverr is seen by most professionals as really the bottom tier in quality. And, occasionally you might even have to sell yourself a little bit to a client who's maybe thinking about going over to the Fiverr area to hire a talent. But you know what? Don't let that discourage you because some people get really pessimistic immediately. They get all like angry at the client. They want to hang up on them. But if you just take just a few minutes to educate like a first-time voiceover buyer and explain to them the difference between hiring a professional voice actor at a full reasonable rate versus somebody a hobbyist at Fiverr, I mean, they actually do listen. And I've won over a lot of business from clients who are maybe thinking about using one of those lower tier sites. So, I mean, it's not the kiss of death just because a client brings it up. But yeah, get rid of it. If you've bookmarked Fiverr, I want you to delete it from your computer. This is not a good way to start. We don't recommend it at all one bit. So, Nicholas Flesher has a question. I recognize him from VoiceOver Camp. Let's see what's on his mind. Nick, good evening. Do you mind if we call you Nick?
Oh, yeah, I prefer Nick.
Okay, perfect. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me all right? How's my mic?
It sounds just fantastic.
Sounds
okay,
good.
cool. It is a little blue Yeti. You guys are talking about USB mics, but
perfect.
You know, I don't really have a lot of money.
That's perfect for webinars.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I just completed my first, audiobook. It wasn't a really high-paying one or a really big one necessarily, but it was a lot of fun. And I've been trying to find ways to get into voiceover without having to spend a lot of money. I don't really have a lot of money, especially for training. I am signed up for Crispin Freeman's voice acting mastery course online next month. So I'm excited for that. It wasn't very expensive. That's the only way I was able to do it. I've checked out a lot of sites, and I've even looked at, Terry Daniels' site, and, it's I
actually heard Terry Daniels pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just finding the money, So I was wondering what you guys would recommend for, starting VO artists, that are just trying to get into it, and they don't really have enough money to do a lot of the heavy training just yet, but they want to find some way to build income. Like, would you guys, I just did an audiobook, but it doesn't pay a lot right off the bat. Sometimes you audition for 50 books and you get like one. So, I was wondering what you guys would recommend for someone like me who doesn't have a lot of cash.
Well, I'm going to mute because that's a really good question, because not saying that everybody, is automatically going to have, a chunk of change for a training program. I would definitely, I would definitely save up for one, but I'm going to let Tawny answer that question, because there's a lot of really.
Tawny, do you have something to say?
I'm going to explode. Let me talk.
Just so you guys know, I can't see your webcams because of the slideshow. It's blocking them. So that's why if you were going like this, I didn't see this. So I'm sorry about that.
It was just entertaining to everybody else, Terry. It's all right.
But
that makes sense.
I'm tired of you guys doing stuff behind my back. All right, go ahead, Tawny. You take it.
So, to answer your question, I understand where you're coming from completely. However, with voiceover, it is about starting your own business. It's no different than anything else. So that means doing it part-time. That means saving up your money to invest into it. Everybody's going to be starting at a different place. I was very fortunate when I started my first business. I had a college fund. I still took out $100,000 loan from the SBA, which is the Small Business Association in my neck of the woods. So this was a lot cheaper to start than what I was accustomed to, but everybody's in a different spot when they start out. And if you want to start your business, you can start your business slowly, or you can start your business with something more if you have more. But what's important is investing that money when you're ready into that good training. So right now it's about getting those classes that you can. It's about right now saving up for those classes that you know are going to be beneficial. Maybe it's getting a part-time job. Maybe it's cutting something else out of your life so that you can invest it into this business, because there is no like, oh, how can I start this cheap? It's either going to be more challenging, less challenging, depending on your situation, of course. But if you want to make it happen, that's the best way to do it, is to allocate those funds to do it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was in
there isn't any like cheap shortcut or anything like that. So a lot of people, like some people will start their business, they have that money, or they get a loan, or they start it in their garage, they save up and they make that first investment. So just like starting a business with absolutely anything else.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, I remember just coming out of radio, and when I really wanted to like just do this full time and take it seriously, I had to take out some crappy. I'm not recommending
Hmm.
this necessarily. I'm not here to give anybody financial advice. Believe me, that's the
Right.
point I
Please
want to
take
make.
out a loan.
Yeah, but
No, 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 no,
but
no.
I did take out a crappy loan with really high interest rates. My credit was really crappy way back then, and but I found a way to make it happen because I was so sick of working in radio in corporate America. I worked for it was called Clear Channel back then. And I also went over to CBS Radio, and that was the same thing. Good, fun people to work with, but that corporate environment, mandatory meeting every 2 minutes, and just having to be micromanaged by your manager. And I was like, oh my god, it's like I was starting to get a little older. I couldn't do it. So I mean, that's what I had to do back then. And there's always affordable options with training. I mean, people see these big price tags, and sometimes you don't have to pay the whole thing up front if you can't. We'll talk about a lot of that a little bit later on, but it's a good honest question because a lot of people are passionate and they don't always have the funds. That's why I like when Tawny tells her story about the retail store. It's like she found a way to make it work.
Mhm.
Everybody has exposable income. You can find a way to make it work always. So thank
Well,
you,
and
Nick. That was a great
particularly
question.
with
I was, I was,
particularly with voiceover too, it was something I got into because our expenses were going up so much. My husband has a congenital heart disease and I have to
Right.
care for him and work at the same time. So it was one of those things where it was like, I'm going to find a way to do this because I want to do it. I love it. And then I have to make it work.
yeah.
Same thing.
No,
I definitely put stuff on credit cards but the thing is like, you have to remember that's an investment into the future. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? It's like you will pay that off. That money will be returned to you. Most businesses don't make money their first
Right.
2 years. That's
Right.
not been the case with me with voiceover, fortunately.
Good. Well,
I was
that's
going to say a lot of the people that are really big right now in the business
Mhm.
got there because they were forced. They lost their radio job. They lost
yeah.
their full-time job. They lost what they had, what they thought was, solid, and it was a sink or swim. And there's nothing between the person that is now successful that started that way and the person that's starting right now. The only difference is that the person that is now successful was incredibly motivated to be successful.
Mhm.
It's like the whole thing about Cortez burning the ships. His men,
Mhm.
once they discovered land, they burned the ships, and as a result, his men were pretty well motivated to do work.
Yep.
It's sink or swim. And for a lot of people, they ride the fence. I got the job, and I'll just do this as a hobby, and maybe I'll make a couple of bucks here and there. It's like, if you really want to be successful, you have to dedicate the time and the effort, and unfortunately, the funds to getting
Yeah.
started. And everybody thinks, okay, as long as I get I can buy a $300 microphone and that's all I need. And it's like, no, you really need to be able to know how to use that microphone
Right.
before you buy it. So that's why I keep saying about starting a foundation. You need to start with training.
Yep.
And if you're going to make money about this, if you're going to be serious about it, you need to be serious. You need to be dedicated to that. That needs to be your goal.
Raymond Bernal, I believe your name is.
Hey,
Raymond.
I'm gonna get
I
to.
know Raymond.
Oh, awesome! I'm going to get to his question in just a little bit. We have to carve into another myth here. Pay-to-play sites are a great place to start. Now, I'm going to dispel this myth a little bit, but this isn't necessarily untrue, and I'm going to tell you why. This can be true, but make sure they're credible. Make sure that they're credible sites. And don't run your business 100% from pay-to-play sites. And this is what I mean. Some people will sit from sunrise to sunset and do nothing but audition on Voice 123 or one of the pay-to-play sites out there. And they tend to get a little institutionalized. And just like Fiverr, they're almost afraid to make it on everybody see the Shawshank Redemption? Those prisoners were those prisoners were way too afraid that they weren't going to make it on the outside. They got too comfortable in that gross, dark, awful prison, but yet they were there long enough that they became institutionalized. And this can happen in pay-to-play sites. Soon you think that is the only world you know. And believe it or not, some of these pay-to-play sites want you to believe that too, because they don't want to lose your business. But there are some, reputable pay-to-play sites like Badalgo, Voice 123. Tawny, I think you've done well with with Voice 123. But
I
it's
do.
also important that you don't audition for everything. Audition for
Correct.
things that you think that you're qualified for. But
Right.
so this is kind of a myth, but yet it's not, because sometimes pay-to-play sites, are a decent place to start. Tawny, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. It's one of those tricky things because there are some really terrible pay to plays out there, but there's also some that it's more about learning how to use the tool so you get the results that you want. If you use the tool incorrectly, you're not going to get the desired result. So part of that is auditioning for the roles that you have a good chance at. So for example, when I get the audition in my inbox, it's looking for a Somalian soldier. That's not my voice. My voice is going to be for something that is, the millennial mom read. So it's about that. And it's also about when you do get those parts from those pay-to-play sites, taking that next step with them.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody that I've ever gotten a job from on a pay-to-play, and I only use Bodalgo and Voice 123. Those are the only ones I've ever been comfortable using.
Yeah, Bodalgo's great.
Bodalgo's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Bodalgo. It's amazing. But pretty much all of my clients that I've gotten from pay-to-plays have turned into repeat clients. And that's the goal, is to not stay in that pay-to-play. It's to get those clients from the pay-to-play and then start working with them yourself.
That's a good way to pick up a few regular clients.
There's quite a few pay-to-plays out there that do nothing, that go out of their way to make sure that you never actually get to talk with the client.
Oh,
you never even know who the client is. I was on one pay-to-play site, and that's how it was. I was doing this job, and it would be a generic name that would get dropped in. I would never get to talk to the client. Even just to ask a question sometimes. It's like, no, I'm talking.
They don't want you.
Manager.
They do not want. They want to keep everything in house. They don't want you going
No.
outside of the. And for those of you that are brand new at voiceover, that are like, well, what the heck is pay to play? These are basically online audition sites that you pay an annual membership fee, and then they send you all kinds of auditions to your inbox. And it looks real flattering when you first sign up, because you're like, oh my God, I'm going to make a fortune. Look at all these auditions I'm getting. but to book it is a whole nother story. But that's basically what pay to play means. So that's our thoughts on that. Let's get to Raymond, who's been patiently waiting to ask us a question. Raymond, good evening. It might take a second or two for his mic to unmute, but we'll let him come on here. Raymond, you might have. There he is. How are you, sir?
I think. Can you hear me out there? I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Good. First of all, excellent. And Rob, nice to see you there. Tawny.
Hi.
What a pleasure, dear, to see you again. I have to tell. Thank you. I have to tell Rob and Terry both that I've been real fortunate in having come across your site through Tawny, because Tawny's mother and I grew up together in Indiana a very long time ago. And
nice.
my life took me into the direction of both the airlines and radio at the same time. So I've been in major market now since I was 24 here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think the thing that I'm seeing as part of my 2 cents and what you guys are saying here is that, number one, I think the whole voiceover process is right back into a big circle. We're getting back to an area where, it started to become so automated that people, both the client and the voiceover artist, started to lose contact with what they were really doing. And because of the ability to be able to do these things with the technology that's available now, they're leading exactly to where you were going. They're coming to a flood in the market with people who either aren't putting in the time, they're not putting in the energy, they're not taking the time to understand what it is, the tools that they're using, or what it is they have to do in order to be able to keep this process, the voiceover market, alive and at a point where everybody can make a little bit of money. But here in Atlanta, I've been in technology for the last, for the 30 years I've been. I just retired early from Cox Media Group, where I was doing a lot of radio and a lot of engineering. And what I'm doing now is I'm getting back into the VO market. And I've had the equipment. I've updated some of my equipment. I heard Tawny say that she had the Rode NT1A. I have the Rode NT1A as well as the MXL 2001, which I really like. Yeah, it's a great microphone. If you can't you can't afford a Neumann, like some of my counterparts here who are working every day, that's a great microphone to work with. And again, with the Scarlett and the old Grace 101 that I've been working with for quite a while, I put those to the side, and now I'm updating. So listening to this, seeing what you guys are doing, seeing that there's even a venue for the kind of stuff that people in voiceover want to be involved with, to me is great. Here in Atlanta, real quick, we have such an opportunity right now because we have now become the new Hollywood of the South, and it's provided a lot of opportunity, not only for some on-air stuff, but local businesses are starting to jump on board, so they're starting to advertise more to all those folks who are coming into town as part of the business core, bringing their production companies here, opening up new production companies. And I'm finding now, even myself, even though I've just jumped back into it again, is I'm starting to get calls from old clients who want to know if I'm back in the business again, and can I do some things for their small and their medium businesses that are being surrounded by all of this production work that they're doing here in Atlanta.
That is,
and that's
terrific.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I'm running a little short on time, Raymond, so thank you.
There you go. Good to talk to you guys.
Thank you for that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I had to mute him up because we just got a couple more minutes to get through some of these slides. But yeah, that's awesome. There's again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, guys. There's opportunity everywhere, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in LA. You don't have to be in New York. You can be in Sisseton, South Dakota. You can be in Palmyra, Wisconsin. You can be in Iowa City, Iowa, doing voiceovers for just about everybody, not only in this country, but I have about a half a dozen clients in Europe that I work with. And in this day and age, with being able to send an MP3 to clients in Europe, get paid via PayPal, it works great. But let's get to a couple other a couple of myths here. Get rich schemes work great. We talked about this earlier. Don't fall for the online gimmicks. Nothing holds a candle to personal mentorship. And then, Professor Cheeseball. Rob, you've been on top of a couple of these kind of get-rich schemes. I don't want you to spend a lot of time on it, but let's try to warn people to stay away from this kind of stuff.
The short answer is that Too Long Didn't Read is the only people that actually made money in the gold rush were the guys that sold the shovels.
Yeah. I love that.
I love that expression.
That is a great analogy for sure.
There's several schemes. One of them uses Fiverr, and it's basically just gaming the system. It's just using the website's search algorithms to flood to get traffic to register that you get seen higher up in the search rankings. It's search engine optimization. It's just black hat. It's not necessarily illegal, but it's so questionable, and honestly, it's not sustainable.
Not very ethical.
No, it's not ethical at all. But the guys, again, that are selling these get rich quick schemes, they don't care. They don't care what you think. I mean, I sold you a dream for $250. You took it. I'm gone. I'm gone.
Yeah, that's
you watched a video that I recorded for, I took 5 minutes to record, and it's been seen by millions of people. That's I've already got your money. It doesn't matter to me. That's what a get rich quick scheme is all about. And these guys don't care.
No,
they're just in it to make money, and that's it. And they don't give a damn about you.
That's exactly you're exactly right. We kind of touched on this last time. Here's another big myth: you have to spend thousands of dollars on a home studio. We talked about this earlier. Good recording equipment has gotten cheaper. Be careful not to put the cart before the horse, and learn the craft first. I made a living with minimal equipment. You guys are still, many of you, even on the call, are making money with minimal equipment. This is not, I think, again, in some of these older voiceover books, I mean, I've seen quotes of like, oh, you need to get a $15,000 to $20,000 studio constructed. I'm like, no, you don't. Look, I mean, Tawny, how much did your equipment cost again?
Couple $100, like when it was all said and done. And I started in the walk-in closet back when I first just put a bunch of egg crate carton stuff up there, the foam. And then that was maybe $50, and then the equipment was $300. So yeah, you don't need the same investment that you do for pretty much every single other business that you start, which is why this is so appealing.
Well, I would invest in a new ringtone. Whose is that?
It's not me.
Oh, maybe I wonder if somebody's unmuted in here. Maybe that's a bell saying that we're running short on time on GoToWebinar. That was really weird. Can you guys hear?
I didn't hear anything.
It's somebody in the background.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to make sure somebody's mic isn't unmuted here.
No, I'm on mute.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm not
I
sure.
had to
why
double
that's
check. That's a little
I don't
creepy.
even know
I
what's
thought
happening.
I was going to blame you, Terry. I thought it was yours.
Here's a big time. I hear this all the time. Oh, voice acting is too competitive. Well, guess what? Photography, acting, sports, all of these fields are 5 times as competitive as voice acting. It's really what you do with it. Every business is competitive, especially in the creative industry. It's all about separating yourself from the competition by taking the proper steps. And if I can run this through again. I hear that a lot. And, name something. I mean, if you want to be a pilot, you want to be a plumber, you want to be an on-camera actor, you want to be a stage actor, you want to be a photographer, you want to be a mortgage broker. I mean, name a profession that isn't competitive. And for some reason, every now and then, the voice acting business kind of gets that tag like, oh, it's so competitive. It seems like so many people are doing it. There's a trillion people on the planet and there's a million people doing everything. So don't let that kind of scare you. That's like one of my favorite myths as well. Training isn't necessary. Deceiving book titles will tell you that it's not. Would you hire a plumber who had no training? Rob, would you do that?
I think I have once.
And by the way, training is mandatory for agency representation. That's one of the first things that a talent agent will ask you. Have you had any coaching? Have you had any training? Did you get your demo professionally produced? So again, this is a huge myth, and you know how many times that we talk about training. We're going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes as well. But right now, Rob, do you have the music queued up?
Oh, I'm supposed to cue the music?
Yes, cue the music.
I have that hour-long YouTube track of a turkey gobbling. We can
Oh
play
my
that.
God! Yeah, please play. Yes, please play that. Please play that and loop it. Put it on loop.
I can't figure out how to patch it in. Otherwise, I would be definitely doing that.
Well, it's time for the damn prize, and we're going to give away a $50 gift card. We're running a little short on time, so I wish I could take more live questions, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. But we'll. Some of you might be chatting with us afterwards. We're going to tell you how you can make that happen shortly. But right now, I want to give away the prize. And 1 second here.
Oh, yeah, I got to do
the winner is Lisa Hayes.
Yay, Lisa!
Awesome.
Lisa,
Congratulations.
and it's good, Lisa. We're going to be doing Lisa's explainer video demo coming up pretty soon here. So
awesome.
Very, very nice to see her in there. So you are the winner, Lisa. All right. So first up, I want to thank you guys for attending what I hope was an entertaining and helpful webinar. We always, we could talk about this stuff for 6 hours. It's such a tremendous industry with just so much great information to give. That's why we're going to try to do a free webinar via VoiceOver Camp, every 3 to 4 weeks. But we do, I do want to make, something available to you. First, I want to cover VoiceOver Camp. Many of you found out about us through VoiceOver Camp. If you're not a member of our group, it's free to sign up for. Just go to facebook.com/groups/voiceover camp. The link is right there on the slide, and just request to be in. And plus, this is a good place to find out about future webinars. Those of you who are already on our coaching roster, it's a good place to find out when the next group class is. By the way, there's a script class this Saturday, and I know many of you are going to be in that as well. That's not our freebie webinar. That's separate. That's a whole different kind of program. But you can find out a lot of this information, and there's some great discussions as well that always takes place. So go to facebook.com/groups/voiceover camp. We'd love to have you a part of that group. Now, for everybody on this call, I want to offer up a free voiceover consultation. Based on everything you heard, if you like what we said and you want to continue the conversation, Tawny Plattis and Rob Marley, who have been gracious enough to be a part of this webinar as well, they're going to be available for 30 minutes only right after this particular webinar to answer any questions that you might have. If you have interest in our coaching programs, I'm not going to go into our website or go into all of our different programs right here on the free webinar. But if you're interested in hearing more information about how we mentor and some of our programs, I really want to encourage you to take the next step, because if you really are passionate about doing this, and maybe you're somebody that's been kind of sitting on the fence for way too long, Maybe you're not getting any younger like me, and you're like, you know what? It's time to go for this. I get tired of people encouraging me to do it, and I don't do anything. There is nothing worse than just sitting around, wishing and waiting. You have to make a move. And I want to, and Rob and Tawny will be available for a free consultation for the next 30 minutes. Now, you can find them in VoiceOver Camp, but I've also got their links to their profile pages. I hope you guys don't mind that I put these here. Tawny is facebook.com/tawny.plattis. Rob is facebook.com/rob.marley.vo. You can actually find these guys in a search as well. And I recommend that you
Cool.
hit them up right after the webinar. And you guys are going to be available for 30 minutes, yes?
Yeah, no problem.
No, I'm not taking calls. I'm just kidding. Of course I
I'm taking my cocktail and going home.
Yeah, we get a lot of
happy hour.
we get a lot of inquiries from people, not only who find our website or find us online, but through VO Camp. Who it's amazing some of the information we get when people ask to become a member of VoiceOver Camp. Some of the information is pretty cool. We can tell we work with a lot of passionate people. So I want to encourage you to meet with Rob or Tawny right after the webinar, and they can tell you a little bit more about what we do in our mentorship programs, and answer any questions voiceover related as part of that as well. So I encourage you to definitely message them. And by the way, use the Facebook Messenger to get a hold of them, because that's probably the easiest way. Just send them both a PM and just say, hey, I'm Mike. I want to hear more about your programs and blah, blah, blah. I'm ready to go. So I would encourage you to do that. So I think that is pretty much it. Let me get to the main screen here. Actually, I'm going to leave that up because people might be typing the URLs of your guys' Facebook page. Hey, I want to thank Rob. I want to thank Tawny. I want to thank everybody on this call. We had about 55 people on the webinar tonight, which is, I think, our busiest webinar yet. We really appreciate the passion. We love it. We love teaching the craft, and we love working with people who really want to learn and get better. And we like working with people that like to take the right steps and get on the right path. So, sometimes, our candor can be questionable, but we're not smoke blowers. We're passionate about putting people on the right path and learning the correct way.
My candor will not be questioned.
Yes.
Sure.
Rob, do you have any closing thoughts?
That was my closing thought.
That was your one closing thought? All right. Well, message Rob on Facebook after this. He'll talk to you. Tawny, do you have any closing thoughts?
My candor comes with a hug afterwards, so I'll make you feel a little better after I tell you how you're wrong. No,
oh man, that's awesome. All right. So again, not to sound like a broken record, but for the next 30 minutes only, Rob and Tawny will be available for a free consultation just for people on this call. Now, if you're already on our roster, if you're already on our coaching roster, you don't need to message them because you're already in the program. But if you want more information on our programs, please message them right after the webinar. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll see you in VoiceOver Camp. My name's Terry Daniel, voice actor and coach from Minneapolis. On behalf of Rob Marley in Austin, Texas, and Tawny Plattis outside of somewhere, was it San Diego, California? I can never remember.
Where I live.
I know. I can never remember the town that you're in.
It's San Diego, California.
Wonderful, wonderful. On behalf of everybody, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy week to attend our voiceover webinar. Message Rob or Tawny via Facebook now for that 30-minute consultation, and we'll see you guys very soon. Thank you, everybody. And by the way, I will post the recording in VoiceOver Camp tomorrow. If you were late on the webinar or you had to dodge out early, don't worry.
You remembered to record it this time.
I did actually remember to hit the record button, believe it or not. All right, take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you